Hello, English learners. Welcome back to the Level Up English podcast, the best place to come to practice the English language, learn about the British accent, while looking at lots of random and fun topics with me, your host, Michael Lavers. I have a nice phrase to look at today. This is something that I think about quite a bit, and I know you can relate to this as well. It's quite a simple idea today, and I think we'll get right into it. No more delaying, just jump straight into the topic. And this is the expression, the grass is always greener on the other side. You may know this expression already. You may even have this in your language as well. But I'll just explain it for those of you who don't know. So green grass is nice grass, right? When grass looks green, it looks nicer, it looks more beautiful. So imagine that you are a cow in a field. Let's just imagine you're a cow eating your grass in the farmer's field. You're at the edge of the field and you're looking into the next field over the fence. And you're thinking, oh, that grass looks so green and juicy. It looks so nice. I wish I was over there eating that grass. And then the cow in that field is looking over to your field and thinking the exact same thing. In reality, the grass is very similar, but these cows, they just want what they don't already have. So hopefully that made sense. Basically, this expression just means we think what we don't have is more valuable, prettier, better in some way than what we currently have. This is I think a natural part of being human, and it's important to understand that it's natural, but it's also important to understand that it may not be the healthiest mindset to have. And I think that's what we're going to talk about today. So one example from my life, which I feel all the time, is when I'm here in Thailand, I often miss aspects of the UK. And one of the things I mention most often is I really miss the British countryside. There's a sense of freedom you get there. I love walking around. I love the peace and the nature. You can just go for a walk and not see another person for the whole day. I think that can be really, really nice. And of course, the climate is comfortable too. It can be a bit cold, but it's not too hot. You've got that nice, fresh, crisp air. Crisp is like very clean and cold air. So I think sometimes some things like that I miss about the UK. Not enough to go back though. I'm very happy here in Thailand. I should just mention that. I definitely prefer living here right now. But then when I go to the UK, like even after just one day of being in the UK, I'm thinking about being back in Thailand, thinking about the sun, the smiling people, the food, the language, the low prices of food, the culture, the different languages I hear there's so many things that make me happy here. And when I'm in the UK, I'm thinking back, like, oh, I really miss all of those things. So I think you can relate to that too, right? You only miss, or you always miss, what you don't have. Really, really annoying feeling, but this is a good example of the grass is always greener on the other side. When I'm here, I think the UK grass is greener. When I'm in the UK, I think the Thai grass is greener. It's very annoying. But I think one benefit of talking about this is that understanding this is a real thing can help us appreciate our current situation more, since we know we will always long for the thing we don't have. I mentioned there long for. I'm sure you know the word long as an adjective, very long. But did you know that long is also a verb? If you long for something, it's kind of like you miss something, but to me it sounds much stronger. Like, I long to be with her. I long to be with my girlfriend again. It's like you really, really strongly desire something. So long for something. So I think today we're going to go through some different situations where you might feel that the grass is greener. We're going to go through these different situations, and I'm going to try to think of some examples from life, my own life generally, and also see if I can come up with some solutions or some mindset changes to work on each of these problems. So let's see what I do. One of them is, I think another one I mentioned, it's not really on my list, but another one is travel. I think this is maybe the reason that I thought about doing this episode, is because whenever I see people traveling in the USA, I get quite envious of them, which means I really want to do that as well. Like, the US is such a big country and it's very diverse. It's got beautiful national parks. Everyone speaks English, which is very easy for me. Interesting culture. So many places that I've seen in movies that I can see in person. There are many reasons why I want to travel around the USA. And whenever I mention this to an American person, they always think, why? Like, it's way better in Thailand. Why would you want to go to the USA? It's crazy over there. It's dangerous. The politics is crazy. They give all these reasons to me. And that is another good example of feeling the grass is greener on the other side. Maybe the truth is somewhere in the middle, right? Between those two opinions. And I think it's a good reminder for me to just be happy where I am. It doesn't mean I can't travel there and enjoy myself, but, if we're always thinking about somewhere else, we're never going to be happy with where we are. So that was a nice reminder for me. Anyway, the first one I want to mention today is career envy. Right? When you envy something, that's you want what someone else has. This is something that many of us might feel. You look at someone with a good job and you think that their job would be more fulfilling, more rewarding than the job you have now. Some ideas that I thought of was YouTuber. That is one of the most common jobs that kids want these days. They want to be YouTubers. And of course, it does look very appealing. Making YouTube videos, getting paid for that, it seems like a dream job, right? And for many people, it is a dream job. But then, how come so many YouTubers I listen to, or I watch, I should say, complain about the stress of their work? I don't think that they are all ungrateful for their jobs. I think a lot of them appreciate how lucky they are, but also they do experience stress and they're allowed to feel stressed, right? And I think a lot of people can't really see this. And I would not say I'm a YouTuber. YouTube is not the main part of my job, but I have spent many years posting on YouTube. And I think I can relate to their feeling, that pressure of always posting a new video. You have to think of a new idea, you have to be creative, you have to be positive, but also you have to do something this week. There's a lot of pressure on that, and if you don't do something, you will get less money, or people might give you hate comments for doing something in a lazy way, right? There's a lot of pressure that they get put under to be creative, which, under pressure, creativity doesn't tend to work that well. So there are definitely downsides to being a YouTuber. And I imagine a lot of YouTubers, in fact, I've heard this before, a lot of YouTubers have spoke about how nice it seems just to have a simple job. Go to an office, you're told what to do, you go home. Because there are definitely pros and cons, but I imagine that creativity every day can be quite exhausting. No one is telling you what to do. You have to think about it every day, which takes a lot of energy. So there are downsides to that as well. I also thought about just famous people. A lot of people really, really dream of being famous one day. And honestly, I thought about this quite a lot, especially with the work that I do. I don't really get recognized very often, but it does make me think, if this podcast was very famous, I could potentially get recognized more. So I have thought about this and thought about what would happen if that were the case. And I think I would hate it. I would really, really hate it. So I tried to put myself into a famous actor's shoes. Imagine you're an American, a Hollywood actor, and you get recognized everywhere you go. Restaurant, going to the shop, everywhere. You can never have a moment when someone doesn't recognize you. And in addition to that, they're wanting photos, signatures. You never have a moment where you can just be quiet on your own. To me, that sounds really, really horrible. Of course, there are benefits to being famous, but if you asked me if I would trade my life with, Brad Pitt or someone like that, I would say no way, no way. I would hate to have that level of fame. I mean, some of us would like that, of course, but personally, that's a downside to me. So once I realized that, it made me stop thinking that the grass was greener on the famous side, right? So I think when you do feel some kind of career envy, it's just really important to focus on your own growth, focus on your own success, and I guess it's easier said than done, right? But try to really focus on the good things in your life. And of course, maybe you will realize that you have to make a change in your life. That's also possible as well. But yeah, I think understanding that a lot of these other jobs, they all have downsides, right? And it doesn't really help to envy them. I mean, maybe there are some cases where you are envious of someone's job and it might inspire you to maybe pursue a similar career. That could be a positive way of using that negative feeling and fueling it, which means giving it energy in a good way. So that's one possibility. Another area where this comes up, which is very insidious. Insidious is an advanced word, which means kind of harmful. It's insidious. This is relationship envy. When you're in a relationship and you feel like someone else's relationship seems better than yours. In fact, this can appear in many different ways. One common way is if you're single, you might think, all I want is to have a boyfriend or girlfriend. If I had that, I would be so happy. But then you get a partner, a romantic partner, and then you think, this is really stressful. I've got to compromise, I've got to share, I have to give them so much time and money. It's very stressful. I wish I was single. Like, look at that single guy. He's having so much fun being single, right? So I think it's important to realize that as well. But also, yeah, in a relationship, you might look at another couple and feel like they are much happier than you. And I think this is never really true. Every relationship has problems, right? Some bigger and smaller, of course, but I think they all have problems. And it could just be that some people are better at keeping them private, right? And there are many cases where the happiest people have the biggest problems. You see this a lot with depression and more serious things like that, where they may appear very happy on the outside, but they're dealing with very, very big problems on the inside, which is not something we should envy, of course, and even more, it's something that we should try to help them with if we're aware of it, of course. But yeah, I think knowing that can help as well, and also knowing that we tend to focus on flaws. Flaws means imperfections, bad stuff. We focus on the flaws in what we have and the good things in others. This is a problem that we often do. So maybe you've got a partner and you might focus on the fact, they're so annoying, they're always arguing with me, this aspect is quite annoying, I don't like that about them. And then you see someone else and you might think, they're so calm, they're so optimistic and happy, I bet they wouldn't argue with me. And obviously that comparison to other people in a relationship can be very dangerous and unhealthy, so it's important to catch that, I think. But yeah, I think just the understanding that no one is perfect, everyone has imperfections, and a lot of the time, not all of the time, but I wonder if many times we bring in a lot of these problems ourselves. You might look at another relationship and think, they're always holding hands and hugging, they seem so romantic, and they're a very sweet couple together. I never do that with my partner. But then why not? If you want to do it, maybe you could be the one to initiate it, which means start it, and kind of focus on your relationship rather than comparing to someone else. So yeah, I think there's something to be done there. A lot of this advice comes back to focusing on yourself, putting the attention away from others and onto yourself. I should say, of course, who am I? I'm not giving any advice here. I'm just a random guy at the end of the day. So I'm not really saying this to give advice, but more to explore this expression and share some of my ideas. But here's an expression I could share. Don't take my word for gospel. Gospel is kind of like, biblical words. In Christianity, you read the Gospels. It's the religious text. So don't view what I'm saying like the Bible, like a religious text. I'm just kind of sharing my ideas, not telling you what to do. So that's one thing I should point out, perhaps. This next one is a really big one, and this is material possessions. So things that you own. It could be comparing your house, your car, or your belongings to other people. This is something that everyone does at different levels, right? And I think I used to have problems with this in the past, where I would look at, I think especially when I was younger, I would look at my clothes, my clothing, and compare to other people. Like, someone will look so stylish and confident and nice in their clothes. I'd look down at me and think, well, I look a bit scruffy, I look a bit boring, right? And I do think there is an element of just getting older. The older we get, the less we compare to other people, naturally. I think that happens. I think older people will generally agree with that. But I think also I like to focus on how my things help me. I really focus on my clothing, like this t-shirt. It helps me stay cool in the hot weather. I don't get too sweaty wearing it, for example. It's lightweight, which is great for traveling. It's also really comfortable. So I can wear it for work, outside. It's always comfortable for me. And when I focus on the ways that my things benefit me, I suddenly care less about how other people's things benefit them. Because again, we don't know, like maybe we might think they look really good, but they might have a lot of self-doubts and lack of confidence about what they're wearing if we're talking about clothes. Or maybe it was really expensive and they're not happy about it. Or maybe it looks good, but it's not comfortable. So I think it's really good to just focus on what you have and how that benefits you, and try to practice gratitude around even the small possessions that you have. One way that I do this, I'll tell you a little bit about me. I love backpacks. I don't know why. I guess I love traveling, and just the idea of buying bags to help me travel. It's like a hobby of mine, I guess. I should say though, it's not buying bags, which is my hobby. It's researching bags. I spend a lot of time researching backpacks, and I think in my whole life I've bought like 5 backpacks, and I've had the same bag now for like 6-7 years maybe. I haven't changed my bag for a long time. So you might be thinking, Michael, like, why are you researching all these backpacks? And I don't know, I guess it's enjoyable. I like it. Sometimes I feel like I really want to buy one, but instead of buying it, I will just write it on a list. I'll say, okay, this list, when my backpack breaks, this will be the bag that I buy. So I'm writing it down. So I'm saving my research, right? But I'm not kind of wasting money and consuming more things, trying to catch up with the newest fashion and the newest trend, for example. But the reason that I'm so happy with my bag is because I changed my mindset. My bag is actually getting a little bit scruffy now. It's got some holes in that I had to repair. But my mindset is a bit more sentimental, right? It's kind of like I think back to all the places my bag has been with me. So that bag has traveled all around the world. We've had so many adventures together, and thinking back on those adventures, almost like it's a person, right? Makes me feel more grateful to have my bag. And since having this attitude, I have never really felt envious of someone else's bag. It may seem like a weird thing to some of you, but having a nice backpack, that's like the one thing that I really like in terms of kind of clothing and accessories. Other stuff I don't really care about that much. So yeah, maybe that can give you some ideas as well. Focus on the benefits of your stuff. 2 more now, not too many today. One is lifestyle envy. Lifestyle envy. And this could be, for example, wishing that you had someone else's life, perhaps a seemingly carefree life. Seemingly is an adverb, which just means it seems like. It seems like his life is carefree. In other words, he has a seemingly carefree life. So yeah, many people, I don't know, maybe you think this about me, because I only show a little bit of my life on the podcast, right? Maybe you think, Michael's life seems so carefree. I bet he never has any stress, which is, it's just not true. I do stress about some things. But yeah, maybe you would look at someone else's life and wish you had theirs. Maybe it's someone who travels all the time and you wish you could also have a travel-filled life. I had this feeling the other day. It often comes up for me in travel. There's a YouTuber I love to watch who travels around the world. And I think at this point, he is a full-time travel YouTuber, which means he gets to travel around the world while making videos about his travel. And that's it. That's his job. And it seems like a really, really perfect dream job, doesn't it? But I have heard him speak a lot about his work, and I know the concerns that he has because he's mentioned them. And again, I think this should be mentioned, the possible downsides of even the seemingly perfect lifestyles, right? So let's say someone is traveling all the time and you wish you had their life. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes. They may struggle with a lack of meaning. Let's say they don't have a job. Here's a good example, actually. Again, I don't want to like talk badly about someone, but this is just the person that came to my mind. When I was in Thailand, 5-6 years ago, for the first time, I met one guy, also from the UK, who was living in Thailand. And I asked him, what job do you have? How come you can live here and you're not working in the daytime? And he said he basically just gambles. He goes on like casino websites and gambles his money. And apparently he's had quite a lot of success at gambling, and he's made a lot of money from doing that. So because of that, he can live very comfortably in Thailand and he doesn't need to go to work every day. In many ways, that seems like the ideal job, the ideal situation, doesn't it? Kind of just chilling in Thailand, lots of money, but no responsibilities. But the feeling I got from him, this is not a judgment, just honestly what I felt, is that he was kind of lacking direction in his life, or he was lacking meaning, you could say. It just seemed like he didn't really know what to do. He was kind of a little bit neutral. Nothing really excited him. He didn't have any goals. He had no purpose. So I didn't envy that life. It sounds good on paper, but when I met him and learned about him, I kind of felt bad for him, actually. It was a bit sad to see that. And, maybe I misread the situation, but that's just the feeling that I had from him. Other things, like people that are traveling all the time, they may have things like money concerns that you can't see. They've spent all their money on travel, so they're very stressed about money and the future. They may struggle with loneliness, right? This was a big problem for me when I first traveled in my early 20s, where I felt quite lonely. On Instagram, on social media, I would post about the beautiful places I was seeing, but outside of those posts, I was quite lonely, honestly. So I think the key for this one is to recognize that every lifestyle has unseen struggles. This is things that are behind the scenes that you can't see without exploring a bit more, that they're struggling with, they're not finding easy. I think that's the key to that one. The last one I want to mention is social media comparison. This is a huge thing these days, especially for younger kids and teenagers, I think. And this is, when you look at other people's posts on social media, you compare yourself to them and you feel the grass is greener on their side. Their lives look exciting and fun, and mine just doesn't look like that at all. I have, kids to look after. I'm stressed with work. I don't get to travel. My life is boring in comparison. One question to ask yourself there, which I often think about, is why are they posting on social media? All right, there's nothing wrong with posting. I often post my travel and photos on social media, but maybe there's some kind of lack. Lack means not enough of something. Maybe they're missing something. And in some cases, this is definitely true where people are on holiday and they're posting on Instagram every 5 minutes. In that extreme case, I would say they're probably not enjoying themselves that much because they're not in the moment. They're posting all the time, all day. So, of course, they're probably kind of bored and they want to show people they're having fun, but really they're not. So that could be one aspect as well. Once again, I do post a lot of my travels on social media, but I still believe that many of the best times we have in our lives, we don't capture on photo or video. We don't post online. Think back to your happiest memories in your life. How many of them were posted online? Maybe there's many that weren't posted and that other people will never get to see. And I think that can be quite special in some ways. Another thing, of course, to remember here is that people don't tend to post on bad days. For example, this is a silly one from my own life. When we had bad pollution last week, I did not post about the bad pollution in Bangkok. But when the pollution was good, I posted about it with a beautiful sunrise picture as well. I don't know why, it was just I wanted to share my happy feeling on Instagram. But I think this works in many different ways as well, where people, they only post the best parts of their journey, and they don't post the day where they got food poisoning, for example, and they spent the whole day in the bathroom of their hotel. You don't see that on Instagram. So yeah, really be aware of that what you see online is very edited, I think we could say, right? And here's another one about relationships. This is something I read recently. There's an article. I checked it before I recorded this episode just to make sure I was right. But studies have shown that couples, like in relationships, who post on social media tend to be less happy. Again, I'm not saying it's wrong to post, and I'm sure there are many reasons for this. There are also many exceptions. So just because you post you and your partner together doesn't mean anything bad. But generally, in this study, there was a correlation, which means a match shown between couples who post less and their happiness in the relationship. So a lot of very happy couples never post on social media. So I think it's important to be aware of that. It doesn't mean, of course, if you see a couple or like a marriage online that they are unhappy, but it's important to consider that it's possible, right? You see a lot of happy couples and maybe they are not as happy as they really appear. I don't want to be too negative about it, but I do think thinking this way can help us be more happy with our own lives and not compare too much. Also, just a reminder that so much of what we see on social media is fake and not real. Anytime you see, a beautiful woman or a really nice landscape or whatever it is like that, they always have some kind of editing to them. It's not the reality. And I think it's really important to be aware of that because it can be quite dangerous when you're viewing it as if it's real life, right? Even just the angle that some photos are taken. We all do this when we take a photo. If there's a really ugly thing on the side of the image, we'll turn the camera away to look at the beautiful sunrise rather than the big pile of rubbish on the road, right? So I think we do this a lot, and yeah, be aware of that. Just even the way you take the photo is a form of editing, isn't it? So I think the final thing I'll say on this topic is this idea of having a shadow side or a dark side, which many successful people do. Success can be defined as financial success, career success, relationship success, basically anyone who you might envy. You want their life. All of these people, it's likely they've had to make sacrifices to get to where they are. And this is really obvious when we look at famous people who have mastered their career. They are really good actors or really good artists or whatever they do, musicians. The way that they have got to where they are often is by sacrificing other areas. If you look at a lot of these public figures, these really famous people, these well-known people, maybe they've achieved a lot in one area, but in other areas, they're really failing. A lot of these people can be maybe very good at their job, but very unhealthy. And that's something you don't see as much because it's inside, right? They might have a very unhealthy body or brain, like mental health as well. There are so many stories about celebrities who are loved and respected for their amazing work on screen, but their relationships are falling apart. They've had, dozens of partners. They've cheating on each other. They've had many divorces all the time, problems of children, and all this kind of stuff, right, that celebrities get themselves into. And I think a lot of it is for this exact reason. When you put energy into one area, a lot of energy, the other areas suffer as well. And I love to remind myself of this because I really believe it just doesn't make sense to compare ourselves with other people. Of course, it's natural to some level, but the more we think about it, the more it kind of stops making sense, right? Because it doesn't really make sense to say, I want to have the skill of this footballer. I want to have his skill, but I don't want to have his relationship problems as well. Because the reason he has that skill is maybe because of the problems, because in order to get so good at football, he had to put less attention towards his partner or children even. So I think a lot of these things, they have what we call a shadow side, a dark side that people sacrifice to achieve success. So I think it's good to be aware of that. I'm thinking about that all the time. Whenever I feel that comparison, I feel about that shadow side. Do I want their life, or am I quite happy being who I am? And then, of course, it leads us to think what shadow side or what sacrifice we would accept for ourselves. Like, I want to get really good at English, but what sacrifices will I make to get there? Anyway, I won't go down that road too much because I spoke about that 2 weeks ago on my Big Habit episode. So go back and listen to that if you missed it. But yeah, I think I'll end it here. So the grass is always greener on the other side. That is how it appears, but there's always some more truth behind it. Hopefully this has been an interesting ramble about this expression. I hope you've enjoyed it. Let me know if you have. I just want to say a quick hello to some of you before we go. On Spotify, I'm prepared today, and I have some Spotify comments to read here. Some good ones, actually. One recently from Gina, who said, I've been working here in Taiwan for almost 10 years, but I'm from the Philippines. I just admitted to myself that my English is not good because my boss is always telling me that, frankly. It makes me offended, and it's a big challenge for me to learn English. So I found out about this podcast, and it's a big help for me to improve my English language. In this episode, hopefully I learn more and more accent on how to speak English without any hesitation. Well, Gina from Philippines, thank you so much for the comment. That's a really nice, kind of maybe motivational comment to hear. It sounds like your boss is not being very nice to you, telling you frankly that your English is not great. From your writing, your English sounds great. You can communicate clearly with me. But yeah, keep working. I hope this podcast can help you. And let me know if you have any questions. I'll be happy to support you as well. So that's Gina. Thank you very much. Here's another one. Dear Michael, I've been following you for about 2 years. At the beginning in YouTube and now in Spotify. I find your episodes always very interesting and useful, and the topics are always different and never boring. You speak in an understandable English, and you let me keep the language alive. Thank you so much by Donatella, Milan, Italy. Wow, thank you so much, Donatella. That's very kind of you. It's amazing that you've been with me for a couple years already. That means so much to me when people have been here and stuck around for a long time. So yeah, thank you, Donatella. One more here from someone maybe called Nitty, who says, I have listened to lots of podcasts, but I sincerely appreciate your podcast because it seems more easy for me to understand because you have a slow pace, a clear sound, and great pronunciation. One more time, thanks for your wonderful podcasts. They've helped me a lot also in speaking. Well, thank you so much, Nitty. That's great to hear. I do worry though that this episode and the one 2 weeks ago, I've got too excited and I've spoken too quickly, but I guess that's natural English speech, isn't it? I hope it hasn't been too quick. But I think next week I will try to calm down and speak calmly with you. Yeah, thank you so much to those comments. No reviews on Apple Podcasts today, so if you want to leave a review there, let me know. You can do that and I will read it out on a future episode. Okay, I'm going to leave you with a quote. Apparently, it's from Albert Einstein, but I feel like he does all the quotes, right? Is it really from him? Who knows? But this one is, the person who follows the crowd will usually go no further than the crowd. The person who walks alone is likely to find himself in places no one has ever been before. That's a good one. I think this is cool for travel, but also kind of just generally in life. If you compare yourself to other people and follow what other people do, you're never going to be better than those people. But yeah, try to go your own path, make your own direction in life, and that way there's no limit to your success. It's just like what I said in the past. If I try to be Joe Rogan, at the very, very best, I would be the second best Joe Rogan in the world, right? That's the best I could hope for. But I think it's much, much better if I can try to be the best Michael I can in the world, or the best me I can. Because then I can go my own path and I can go to places that no one has ever been. Maybe make some podcasts that no one's ever made before. Who knows? Hopefully I can achieve that one day. But anyway, thank you for listening to this episode. Do hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye. You have been listening to the Level Up English podcast. If you would like to leave a question to be answered on a future episode, then please go to levelupenglish.school/podcast. That's levelupenglish.school/podcast. And I'll answer your question on a future episode. Thanks for listening.